This is the Environmental Protection Commission public hearing and regular meeting Wednesday, December 3, 2025. The first item of business is a public hearing. It's EPC 23-2025, PL 25-152, 10 Holly Lane, Ken Rosenberry and S. Rosenberry, to construct an in-ground pool, spa, patio, drainage, and other related features in a special flood hazard area and proximate to wetlands and water courses. The property lies along the west side of Holly Lane, approximately 700 feet north of Middlesex Road, and is identified as map number 9, Watt 150. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.19 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, we'll start off with some general housekeeping measures. For the record, this application was accepted on October 8th, 2025. The Commission acknowledged receipt, provided some initial comments on the application itself, and as a result of that discussion, determined how to hold a public hearing on this matter based on public interest. With that information, staff composed what we call a Section 9 letter, which was identifying the terms of the public hearing, the projected date of that hearing, which of course is this evening, and that was issued on October 15th. Additional information letter after our review, staff review, and the comments provided by the Commission were issued on October 29th. We made referrals to our engineering consultant in early October, and also with follow-up referrals on November 22nd and the 26th. The important part, the legal notice. We published, per the regulations, on 2 occasions, on November 20th and the 27th. The applicant provided notice to abutters within the dates outlined in the regulation on November 17th. Parts of the record that have been outlined, or pertinent elements of the record, have been outlined in the agenda summary report that you have. It includes, there's a project narrative, wetland delineation, environmental assessment, stormwater management report, zoning location survey, site plans that have been revised some number of times, drainage plan, correspondence by the design engineer. There's been a wetland mitigation plan that's been provided. And also there are, in our record, copies of prior letters of map amendment and the ferment layers. Also, I'm making reference to all the information that we have in our both paper and electronic files under EPC, this application, which is EPC 23-2025. But for the commission members that have been on the board for the past couple of years, there had been a prior application as well that went through some of the initial processes and asked for information. And after the duration of the review period had expired, the applicant at that time had determined to withdraw the application. So those are our references. One thing that is not in your packages, but has been recently received, is a final comments, a positive endorsement of the drainage and water quality plans by Joe Canis, our peer review consultant. So with that, I'll just offer a few comments having to do with what the regulated activities are and what the characteristics are of the site, the issues that are pertinent to the application, but also how the applicant has crafted his application to address those questions and concerns. So the applicant proposed to construct an in-ground pool, spa, patio, drainage, and other related features in and proximate to wetlands, water courses, and the special flood hazard areas. The property is currently residentially developed with single-family dwelling, decks, paved driveways, drainage, etc. The drainage that was installed at the time of the original designed concept includes rain gardens that are primarily positioned in the front of the building. This property is characterized by the presence of gently to moderately sloping developed lands. There are wetlands that are maintained as lawn wetlands that are wooded. There's portions of a minor watercourse and pretty substantial portions of the property line in special flood hazard area. There's also some number of moderately the size to large trees that are on the property. The wetland soils were identified by a soil scientist in advance of the prior application. If you noted on your plan, it's probably more than about half of the rear portions of the property are defined as wetlands. The front portions of the property have been defined as generally as the upland. And again, that minor watercourse borders I think it's the southern property boundary. The wetlands on the property, again, range from substantially lawn grass in the back, closest to the house, and light to moderate woods further to the west. The property's in the flood hazard zone. Base flood elevation is 97.2 as interpolated by the surveyor. And again, we talked about that the development of the parcel and the subsequent pool application had been reviewed by the land use boards in the past few years. I think that generally ranged from 2018 to 2023. A letter of map amendment had been secured by FEMA to take only the house out of the flood zone based on the information that was provided to them at the time. But significant portions of the property still remain in the flood zone, and they actually make note that, future applications affecting the special flood hazard area would be subject to local permitting and compliance with all the various components of the flood regulations. So the applicant, again, is proposing this in-ground pool, a patio. Inside the pool, within the envelope of the pool, is a spa. They had to look at drainage and important issues that the commission has identified is to demonstrate that the applicant has avoided or minimized wetland watercourse impacts, that they utilize measures to prevent or preserve water quality, address potential drainage impacts, that they're complying with the applicable structure requirements of the flood regulations and rise impact requirements, and that they provided measures to mitigate for unavoidable impacts or improve the overall conservation values of the regulated areas and property. The commission was very clear in its review at a couple months ago, the October acceptance meeting, of the information that they would be looking for. And a lot of it revolved around looking at those alternatives that were going to minimize impacts. And to that end, the applicant modified their plans and their reports. In brief, they provided a site development plan to identify to show the full range of the improvements and to identify impacts. You will note that unless it's attributed to the landscape and demarcation features, there's no direct inland wetland impacts. There are impacts or encroachments into the upland review area of about 2,800 square feet and about 1,500 square feet of the special flood hazard area. There's no direct impacts to the water course, with the exception of that part of the commission's requirements were to review the water course and to remove any potential obstructions that would impede the flow of water in the channel. The area affected by the pool and its related facilities includes lawn, deck, walkway, and other previously developed spaces. The pool and related features are no less than 5.6 feet at its closest point to the mapped wetland line, which again is all lawn. Any fills will be de minimis. No trees of size or individual or groups of trees of size are going to be impacted. To address issues relating to drainage and water quality, a drainage report was provided. They looked at existing conditions and the proposed conditions, the projected increase in impervious surface if left unmitigated, would result in an increase in runoff. And in order to mitigate that impact and to also provide some water quality function, you'll note on your plans that, that they are under the at-grade patio space doing a gravel-based patio with volume associated with it to again, mitigate the drainage and water quality impacts. It's really an infiltration trench, essentially. When running the drainage analysis, the engineer has confirmed that for all storms ranging from 2 to 50 years in intensity, there'll be no adverse impact on drainage or adjoining properties. That the water quality volume has been accommodated, and I just want to say for all those storms, the runoff shall be unchanged or diminished for all those storms. Test hole information was provided to support the feasibility of that. A basic operations and maintenance plan has been provided for that space. And again, as I alluded to at the beginning, the plans have been now reviewed in detail by Joe Canis, and he has endorsed the design and the study methodology and the impact analysis. Other items to assist in the preservation of water quality is a sediment erosion control plan. Something that was identified by the commission members during the last application was having to do with dewatering. Because the reality is a lot of the space on this property is, especially if you dig down, is going to encounter water. So they've come up with a dewatering plan, essentially using a dewatering bag or dirt bag, whatever you may call it. They're using infiltration to seize upon the soil's ability to mitigate impacts, cool and treat runoff. They have provided correspondence and backup data to confirm that as a result of the basically constructing this at-grade pool, at-grade spa, at-grade drainage systems, that there'll be no adverse impact on the flood potential, the rise potential, or changing the dynamics of the flood. And again, Joe Canis has reviewed those as well. Structural floodproofing. At this point in the application, some of the things have been certified as being structurally floodproof, but certainly in advance of a building permit, you would have to have those certifications to prove that the pool, the spas, the underground trenching, the walls would have to comply with Darien's regulations, meaning that they've been designed to withstand the flood depth pressures, velocities, impact, and uplift forces.
You put that in as a condition.
We get that point, but certainly it's highlighted in here.
Yep.
In terms of landscaping mitigation, there's a very extensive landscaping plan that has been provided that expands upon the planted buffer that was applied during the initial phases of construction of the dwelling. Again, it's been expanded around the entire perimeter. It's not, it certainly is not incorporating all the wetlands, but it's taking the space that was previously approved and expanded by a minimum of 15 feet. And not only along the wooded space, but it's been taken down along the edge of the water course as well, as a means to stabilize the soil and filter runoff, get rid of some of that manicured surface. They've also done a demarcation feature consisting of embedded boulders, and then they've added many of the standard notes that this commission looks for in their planting plans, having the use of true natives, non-synthetic deer repellents, and some of the other things that we've... Organic land care, thank you. You know where that came from. Most important, though, to the application under the public hearing, though, process, is the last paragraph dedicated to alternatives. I note that the applicant had come in and reviewed the prior application and hit all the, what was the sticking points in the prior application, and how can they improve upon their own plans. And just some of the things that, from my review and analysis of, is that, and of course, they go on and they have 2 environmental assessments about the potential impacts and how they've altered the plans. Those were provided by Mr. Carey and Mr. Sumalides, and as shown on their revised site plans. The alternatives that they looked at, that were prompted to review, is that they significantly diminished the size of the pool that was proposed from the last application. There's also gone from an above-ground pool to at-grade pool, which is meant to minimize the flood impacts. The old application had a ice plunge that was situated outside of the pool on an elevated deck. The ice plunge has been removed. They placed a spa, but within the confines of the diminished pool. They reduced significantly the amount of site disturbance. The original plan provided for, if you recall, regrading the entire backyard and the individual's driveway to get the water to go into the front of the property, to go into an expanded rain garden. So they're disturbing the front of the property and the rear of the property as a result of it. Again, in this case, they've cited an infiltration trench under the patio space. So there's really nothing outside of the development envelope that's being proposed. There is, they're using walls, minimal, low-profile walls to reduce the spread of filling, even though it is still de minimis. Here's a big one that the commission was very explicit, is they eliminated the perimeter pool fence. They're relying extensively on the safety cover on this pool. The last thing is, the equipment for the pool was originally located right next to the water course, right next to the original air conditioning units. They've removed that. They placed it on the complete opposite side of the property behind the garage. Actually works out better because it's actually closer to the pool and to the mechanicals that they need to service. So with that, I'm complete in at least summarizing the application. You may want to reference the agenda summary report, but also the October 29th, 2025 correspondence that we provided that lists all the items that were very important to the commission members. The applicant is here, there's engineer, landscape representatives, and others, and I'm available to answer questions.
Good. Before we start with your presentation, the application in 2019, was everything done that was said they were going to do?
Which is?
The application, that there were permits issued in 2019.
The 2019
well, no, did they build the rain gardens that they were supposed to?
They built
did you go out and review it to make,
Well, I wasn't here. Okay, I wasn't here, but I can tell you the rain gardens are present. I looked through the file that there is some certifications and there are as-built for the rain gardens. There is some information, data and information on the construction of the dwelling. They did, if you go out and you look, there are some remnants of the planted buffer that was there, especially in the back. So, based on that information, they secured a CO. They secured the endorsement of the agency's representative that were here at the time. So, was it built in accordance with the plan? As best as I can see, yes. The second application was never pursued for the pool.
I remember that one.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Kurt Lowenstein for the record, professional engineer in Connecticut, Land Tech offices in Westport. We're retained by the homeowners to do the site civil components of this. And thank you, Rick, for that thorough recap. And you don't leave me with a lot to say, but I'll try not to reiterate.
That was done on purpose.
Shilpa, one of the property owners, is here as well, and then you have Dan Collar on the right and John DeFeo from Shoreline in the front row there. I'm going to keep it pretty brief because we've already got a very thorough packet here of what we're doing. John's going to run through a little bit of the planting buffer, and then we'll open up the Q&A. So, firstly, to the south is that existing stream. that runs into a 30-inch culvert, and then that runs under Holly Lane and then onto adjacent properties and makes its way down. We're not proposing any modifications to that. As Rick mentioned, portions of the property are located within a FEMA designated flood zone. So the orange line here is the mapped line. So if you go onto the FEMA website, that's the line that you'll see, and that is the governing line as far as flood zones go. When we're in areas such as this, which is a riverine flood zone, oftentimes what you'll see is deviations from the mapped line to the flood insurance profiles, which are the interpolated lines. That's the true elevation of the flood zone. In this case, it's 97.2, and that's what this blue line here is. This is the interpolated line. So in the 100-year flood, the water will get up to this line here, not actually to where the orange line is there. So one process, the previous owners had already done this partially, where they removed just the house. There's a similar LOMA process through FEMA where you remove portions of the property. In this case, is based on basically historical inaccurate mapping. You know, the way that they generate these mapped lines is, you know, come from a very high level perspective. You know, they're not going out to each individual property and seeing where that contour runs. So that's something just, you know, as far as, you know, flood impacts and work within flood zones. From the map perspective, yes, we are working in that, but from a real world flooding perspective, we're not proposing any disturbance within that flood zone. No grading, no structures, nothing to change from what's out there currently. So we are proposing a pool in the rear yard. There's a house there now. As Rick mentioned, there's 2 rain gardens that were installed with the original development. One along the driveway for those that went out to the site walk. Then there's the rain garden here, and then there's a larger rain garden that basically runs along the whole south side, adjacent to the stream. So the new pool is 18 by 38 pool. Will be in the rear here, just off of the edge of the existing wood deck that will remain. There'll be a small patio around it, and then you'll have your pool equipment, which is highlighted here in yellow. And then you'll have a small walkway that's to allow access to the existing doors on the back of the house if you notice that there's some storage doors there. The original plan that we submitted to you had, and I have it with me, which if there's any specifics I can flip to that, but generally speaking, we had some grading being shown in between where the edge of the patio is now and the wetland line. The wetland line, you know, from a technical perspective, yes, it is a flagged wetland line. For those that have been out there, if you look at the aerial, it's your average run-of-the-mill lawn. It's been maintained that way long before my clients bought the property. So from a functional perspective, it's not, you know, a pristine wildlife habitat or providing, you know, all the functions and values that we would like to see in a wetland. So we've reduced even the proximity to that, recognizing that, you know, it is a regulated line. So the previous plan that we submitted, so this is what at acceptance the plan you had, we were about 2 feet from the wetland, from the flagged wetland line with the grading. The new plan that you have in front of you, where we're now eliminating that grading and we're utilizing some small retaining walls. These are, you know, your kind of knee-high walls. Eliminates that grading, and now we're about 6 feet from the wetland. So you know, it's a tight backyard there from the flag line, but you know, we're really pulling this thing in as tight as we can. It's not an absorbently large pool. It certainly fits in the space nicely. As Rick mentioned, the original application that we submitted, to the south where the generator is now, that's where we had the pool equipment proposed. We've now relocated it basically next to the end of the driveway. There's an existing electric meter there. There's an existing propane tank there, which we will be relocating, which I'll speak to in a minute. But this kind of keeps everything contained in this area, makes it a nice, neat little package. And John's going to put together a nice screening package for the clients in this area. So we think that, you know, with the recommendations from the commission, we think this is a much better, less potential impactful proposal with the equipment here. There was questions about the existing propane tank and logistics, construction access, how we're getting machines in, out with the tank where it is. So similar to the, looking at the new location for the pool equipment, we said, okay, can we look at, relocating the propane tank? So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the existing propane tank. They'll be hooked up to basically a temporary fuel propane source. That'll allow the construction access will be off the end of the driveway here to come in easily through here, and then ultimately a new underground propane tank will be buried and installed. It'll maintain all of the regulated setbacks, from a building code, zoning code perspective. But this will allow kind of free access here, and basically we're going to come in, they're going to start on this side of the development and then work their way out. Doesn't require any access, certainly not through the wetlands. There'll be double row silt fence that'll be installed, fully kind of sectioning off those portions of the wetlands throughout construction, and then they'll work their way out. Stockpile was also located to the south. If you'll see between the two plans, it's shown in this area here. So what'll happen is they'll come in, they'll dig the excavation for the pool foundation, they'll stockpile that material in this area now, which is just kind of a lawn stepping stone walkway now. They'll reuse what they need in the backfill, and then that'll all be trucked off the site. So beyond the first, kind of big excavation for the pool foundation, there's really not much for stockpiling that will be on the site. So we think that was a big improvement, as well as, again, kind of tightening this thing up as much as we can. Drainage, we're providing that drainage all in kind. As Rick mentioned, the previous application before us, we're, working and moving drainage into the front here and causing more disturbance, keeping this all kind of point source treatment in kind. Essentially what you're going to have is just stone and pipe. There'll be perforated PVC pipe. They'll be connected up as a manifold. Within that, there's a series of channel drains within the patio that will collect that and then recharge it into the ground through the stone and the perforated piping. Planting buffer is what's highlighted here, which I'll let John speak to in a moment. But other than that, I think I'm going to finish after John with just reiterating some of the three alternatives and why we think this is the most feasible and prudent for this site. We've done a lot of work on this project. We met with Rick very early on to understand, what can we work, within the confines of a challenging site here. Roughly half the site being wetlands, from a regulatory standpoint, does make it quite challenging to do anything here. So with that, I'd like to let John come up and speak a little bit to the planting plan that he's put together, which
Good evening. My name is John DeMail. I'm a landscape architect. As Kurt and Rick had mentioned, as mitigation, we are taking a huge amount of existing lawn area, roughly about 15 feet wide, and mitigating it with true native plantings and edging that area with boulders placed within 8 feet apart of each other. The plantings consist of fir, dogwoods, bayberry, viburnum, and basically a lot of the plants that native animals forage on and live within. We included some fir also along the edge here, which also might act as some screening to the neighbors, but it also adds an evergreen material for the plants, for the animals to live within as well. So again, currently the existing lawn area extends all the way to the back side of this dark area, which you're seeing in this drawing here. There were some boulders placed there originally as part of probably the house construction or something, but now we're extending another 15 feet all along this whole edge, all the way along the edges here, to help mitigate any runoff and in terms of any water quality, seepage for the plants to filtrate anything going on in there. And we're also noting care of these materials to be basically, there is deer damage that occurs, so what can we do to make it so that the deer aren't going to bother them so much? But we also want to make sure that whatever is used doesn't have any synthetics, so we do get into notes regarding that. For some of the trees, smaller trees, we're showing that there's going to be some deer guards to make sure that they don't rub their antlers on them. We get into natural ways of removing the existing lawn, whether it's stripping or suffocation. I know that sounds bad, but so basically everything's noted in the notes, because we want obviously these plants that we're going to propose to live for as long as possible. That's generally it.
Thank you.
And just for reference, for anybody that has not been out there, this is the property here. This is the existing tree line. This is the wetland area now. This is a true lawn area out there. So the addition of this buffer here is really adding extra levels of protection to what is not currently there now. I just want to quickly show the alternatives that we looked at. Obviously, the first is the plan that was originally submitted by us with our original application. So the pink on the edge shows where that grading was. Again, we're in about 2 feet or so off of the wetland line. Soil stockpile to the south here, pool equipment also to the south. Again, in our plan now, everything's relocated, all localized within that development footprint. Also, we did originally have deer fence located within that planting buffer and obviously within the wetlands. That's now since been removed. And then the other, while not an alternative that we prepared, but I think it's relevant because it was an application that was in front of your commission for a nearly identical project to what we have here. So this was the previous applicant and design engineer's plan. The pink indicating the kind of buffer, the extent of the site work, and it's essentially on the wetland line. I'd say it's within the margin of a foot or so off of that wetland line. To construct an elevated decking and pool that close to a wetland line, the chances of encroachment within that wetland are very high risk when you're that close. So take all the additional disturbance aside, just the proximity itself, I think, demonstrates that the current proposal we have in front of you is a more prudent and feasible and really mitigates potential impacts to the greatest extent possible. This application is, as Rick indicated, Joe Canis has reviewed it. It is in compliance with all of the stormwater regulations of the town from a water quality and a water quantity from the peak attenuation perspective. There are no direct wetland impacts or disturbance other than the wetland planting buffer of itself. And I think this is, thank you to the commission for your feedback and, helping guide us to this. That's really an integral part of the design process is, getting feedback from the town and from the commission. So thank you for that. And so I'd like to open up any Q&A from the commissioners, but I think we've put together a concise and, a nice balance between preserving the environment and helping the homeowners enjoy their backyard.
Carolyn, do you want to?
So I think you've done a nice job. I mean, especially you know, incorporating some of our concerns into you know, the new site plan. You know, removing the perimeter fence, relocating the stockpile. But I do have a couple of questions. So the rain gardens, I know those were part of the 2019 approval for the construction of this house, or 2018. I did see the one rain garden on the south, and so I didn't see the one in the front, but it's up by the driveway. Okay.
Yeah, as you could, were you at the site?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you come up the driveway, it's right to the left.
Yeah,
It's like
okay.
almost right up against the
Do you
driveway.
have a sense of how they're functioning? I mean, are they working as designed? You know, it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say
there's been no-
precisely because, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't design it originally, but, you know, from my observation, I don't see any heavy siltation in there. That's usually an early indication that, you know, a rain garden is not functioning properly, is if it's all silted up or there's lots of, you know, debris, there's not leaf litter or lawn clippings that are being thrown in there. It looks to me, you know, that it's functioning, you
So
know, to the
like
best
not
it can.
overflowing except maybe during exceptionally.
Yeah, again, you know, I don't know how it was originally designed. Rain gardens are not designed to, you know, keep all the water always within them. They may have, you know, permitted overflow. You know, I can't say for sure how it was originally designed, but there's no indication to me that the rain gardens are being blown out or they're being eroded or things are being thrown into it that would diminish the storage volume in there. You know, by all accounts, I think it's, you know, everything's working as it should.
So Rick had mentioned that the pool, the patio, and the pool and the patio are all at grade. So there will not be any excavation for the patio and the infiltration system?
No, there will be excavation required to
There is,
to
okay.
install. Yeah, the foundation of the pool, yes.
For the pool, yes, but.
And there'll be, and along the edge here, there will be some small retaining walls. Again, like I said, you know, at the highest it's about knee high, so like 18 inches, and then it fades into the grade. It's really just along this edge, so the pool shell will act almost as a retaining wall in
Right.
itself. And this is really just to, we could fill it so it would look at grade, but like I said, we wanted to kind of pull back any grading,
Right.
so that's why we elected in
To
this
do the wall.
iteration to just leave a small reveal.
So you relocated the stockpile from the south side of the pool to, is that, I mean, I've seen pools excavated, is that, I know this isn't to scale necessarily, but will that area be sufficient for the?
For the material
Yeah.
itself? Yeah, I think so.
And for what you have to do for the infiltration system?
So those are two different things. This stockpile will be for the soil that's there now. They're going to bring an excavator, they're going to dig that, and then they're going to set that material to the side. Some of that will be able to be reused on site. Most of it will be taken off.
Right.
The infiltration itself, that's going to be all gravel. So that's going to be an imported material.
Okay.
So they'll bring that in. Trucks would, presumably park here, and then they would be able to, wheelbarrow would probably be the way I would imagine them doing it, because it's not a huge area.
Right.
And then placing the stone where they need in here, or perhaps with a small excavator.
And again, that
Get it from the
stockpile
side.
area, that's sufficient for the.
Yeah, there wouldn't be much, like I said, there wouldn't be much stockpiling of material after the excavation of the pool, should the foundation.
The
itself.
backfilling will only be on the east side of the pool?
It'll just be in this area.
In that
Yeah,
area.
there's not a lot of fill anywhere needed on the site. Within the patio, that's basically all stone underneath of that.
Okay, and then we talked about, or Rick had mentioned, and you confirmed that the perimeter fence has been removed. And I just had, okay, we've gotten final comments from the town's engineering consultant. So I just had a couple quick questions about the planting plan. I just wanted to.
Sure.
I think you covered them, but I just wanted to confirm.
Sure.
So the 15-feet buffer starts from, in other words, it will be taking up existing lawn. It's not going it's not going to the west, I
Correct.
guess it would be.
It's all,
Not impacting the existing tree line.
Right,
Yes.
okay. So it is going to be doing that.
yes.
And we talked about, I think you had mentioned the removal of some of the invasive material, and you have some really lovely notes on your planting plan. For some of the smaller stuff, it's going to be easy to do, you know, by pulling them out and so forth. But when we say by hand, for some of the larger things, it might require like repeated cutting and thing over the course of the years. I just want to make sure we're not going to be, even though it's by hand, not like massive digging to get the roots out.
Right, I mean, you know, where we're doing our mitigation right now, it's just lawn. So where we're talking about maybe going through a little bit in the area that's existing to see if there are some blatant invasives.
I think on the north side.
Yeah, so, as you know, there is a process to it, and it's one of those things where, you know, there is pulling, there's cutting, repeated cuttings, because it keeps coming back every year. So there is going to be some maintenance to it to ensure that it doesn't come back. So, you know,
Yeah, it's a lovely planting plan. I think you did a really great job with it.
Thank you.
And the only last thing I would just say is I would highly recommend, as you mentioned yourself, the organic land care for the lawn, because it is actually it is wetland. So
right. I did know no fertilizers are to be used within the wetland area. So that could hopefully cover that entirely, you know, because even some organics have a lot of nitrogen in them, so that could add to some of the water quality as well.
okay.
Peter?
I think it's a wonderful plan, and I think it's a real example of how a plan can evolve to strike the balance of a lot of different issues and interests, so thank you. Only question is pool safety covers if you're auto cover, so there's no intention of putting a fencing around it at a later date?
No. Okay. No, right now the law doesn't require it, and we're intending to comply with the portion that allows you to not have the fence there.
Okay,
Yeah,
no more
I'd
questions.
rather not.
Thank you.
Sure.
I think the plan's very thorough. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I thought it was a great presentation. Incredible to see, because I was part of, way back when, the original applications and things like that, and I think this is, you know, it shows a lot of thought that have gone on your part working with your client forward. And so, Rick, do you want to write a draft of, yes, this is a public hearing. So, sorry about that. The commissioners are through. If there are members of the public that would like to speak, please, you have to come to the podium. Please raise your hand and come to the podium and speak, and we'd like to hear you. Okay, any members of the public? No? Anybody back there? You would like to speak?
Yeah.
Sure, come on up. No, you have to come up here and identify yourself. You have to say, my name is, and your address, and so.
He didn't want to speak.
No. Oh, you didn't want to say?
You were just saying
He's a member of the public.
A member of the public that doesn't want to speak.
All right. So, is there any member of the public going again? All right. Sorry, I didn't understand that. Okay. So, being no members of the public that would like to speak, let's, can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, I make a motion to close the public hearing for EPC 23-2025, 10 Holly Lane.
Second motion to close public hearing 23-2025.
All in favor? Okay. Rick, you want to write that one up?
Yep. Decision within 35 days.
Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, EPC 30-2025, PL 25-185, 471 Mansfield Avenue, Missionary Society, Inc., AKA the Episcopal Church in Connecticut, the Commons, to demolish an existing residential structure, abandon a septic system, fill and regrade within close proximity to wetlands and watercourses, Stony Brook. The property lies along the west side of Mansfield Avenue, approximately 1,200 feet north of Half Mile Road, and is identified as map number 2, lot number 35. The zone is R2, and it is approximately 14.45 acres.
Mr. Chairman, this application has made its way to the agenda tonight. It is for the demolition. It's the Missionary Society, the Episcopal Church of Connecticut property that's located up on Mansfield Road. There is a residential structure on the property, and there's also a garage on the property. The applicant seeks permission to demolish those structures, remove the foundations, and to backfill to grade as a precursor to a future development proposal, sale and development proposal on the property. But they're taking baby steps. First step is to rid the property of those structures because they do lie within the regulated areas. And so, again, it's made its way to the agenda tonight for acceptance of the application, start the statutory time clock, solicit preliminary comments, and a determination as to if a public hearing is warranted or not.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments on this one?
I don't have any questions or comments. I guess my only question is, the organization is the owner of the property, because I know there have been some questions about the entity that owned this.
As
the
application?
Yes.
And in the records of the tax assessor, it's that entity.
That entity, and we're seeing representatives of that entity present themselves.
They have authorized, they have an agent, which is Redness and Mead.
Yep.
And so they'll be representing them in the application. There's an authorization letter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I don't really have any questions. I mean, I guess the only thing that I thought was I was a little curious about is that there's this one little like elbow of they're not removing the asphalt drive, but there's this one little circular area of it that is in the upland review area, and I was wondering why, since they're doing the application. I imagine that at some future point, because they're subdividing and they'll be coming before us for whatever activity is proposed at that point, so they're not doing it now, but it just seems like, why wouldn't they just do it now?
I mean, again, right now it's for only the demolition and some of the backfill of that. So I'm guessing you're correct that a future development project will, of course, do whatever's necessary to improve the space.
Right, otherwise I don't really have any comments or questions.
Yeah, I guess my other additional comment might be, in the ordinary course of a demolition, will they be checking for asbestos?
I mean, I think any demolition,
You have to.
the state law says you have to.
You have to.
Yeah, okay.
So,
All right. That's it.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Okay, moving on to old business. EPC 17-2025 PL 2593, 53 Birch Road, J. Sagar and V. Sagar 2. Construct an expanded driveway walls, drainage, and other related features proximate to wetlands and watercourses. The property is located along the west side of Birch Road, approximately 250 feet south of Sylvan Lane, and it is identified as map number 11, lot number 13. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.44 acres.
Mr. Chairman, I'll spare you from listening to me talk for another half hour, but there was extensive testimony that was provided at prior meetings of this agency. At the last meeting, and certainly we covered issues relating to drainage, water quality, impact on resources, alternatives, etc. As a result of that, the commission had, and this was at the November 3rd meeting, had requested that the applicant go back and give some more time and attention to approximately 7 additional matters that they wanted to see addressed. And those included discussion of design alternatives, particularly in the phase that was closest to the river, having to do with the reduce the encroachments into the regulated areas and in an attempt to reduce the total imperviousness that was being proposed. If you recall, the driveway is being widened in certain areas to accommodate, to give them access, more feasible access to the house and a new garage. But it also is pretty extensive, the amount of imperviousness. And so the commission asked the applicant to go back and look at that. They looked for modifications. We've looked for modifications to the planting schedule to spread it along both sides of the driveway along the edge of water course, and to look at tree sizes and confirm the use of true natives. We wanted notes concerning provided for seasonal review of the stream corridor, removal of potential conditions, obstructions to flow, removal of invasives. They were asking for a treatment or management schedule. They're looking at visual demarcation feature, which had been previously absent from the submittal. Wanting to make sure that all the collection structures have minimum 2-foot sumps and outlet controls as the means to improve water quality. And Joe Canis had, our peer reviewer for engineering matters, had although at the time was, had given a conditional endorsement, and he pointed out a couple things that needed to be addressed. And then was the opportunity for them to come back and address his concerns. I can report, and I tried to outline as best I could in this agenda memo, is that the applicant has reduced the driveway by approximately 553 square feet, the driveway in the expanded area, which results in lesser encroachments towards the wetlands and watercourse. It also protects a couple other trees that were originally going to be lost as a result. The drainage systems continue to mitigate both the peak rate of flow and volume for the 1 through 50-year storms. The planting mitigation has been expanded. It has been altered to embrace more true natives. There's provisions for the by-hand removal of non-native invasives. There's a basic guidance for long-term management of non-native invasives. And they have added notes for seasonal review of the watercourse. Also, there's a demarcation feature that's been added. The detail sheet for the drainage collection structures has been modified. And we have submitted the revised plans to Joe Canis for review. We do have a positive endorsement from him that just appeared yesterday or so. He added one condition, but it was a very de minimis change in the location of a pipe that he expressed that would be easy to do as a condition of any given approval. With that, the applicant is here this evening. I'm available to answer questions. And again, if you referred back to the agenda summary report from last month that had the bulk of the information relating to the site and the characteristics and what they've done in terms of drainage impact, but I wanted to focus on the changes that were tonight, on the changes that were made in specific response to your questions and concerns.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Rachel Orsi from SE Minor on behalf of the applicant for 53 Birch Road. We're here tonight to review the changes to the site plan that were made based on your comments from the November meeting. Thank you to Rick to summarize. We were unable to see the summary report, but I think a lot of what we had prepared tonight is similar to what Rick had just shared with you. So the existing conditions at 53 Birch Road include single-family residence, driveway, and a bridge over the stream. With this project, we're proposing to reconfigure the existing driveway, which allows for access to the garage as well as better maneuverability for the family. With this project, we're also proposing a stormwater drainage system that meet and exceeds the town's standards, with the addition of many true native species to enhance the upland review area. During the November hearing, we heard your comments regarding the impervious area and enhancing the planting plan. We come before you tonight with a net impervious reduction by about 50% of what we originally had, or what we had previously proposed. So we went from about 815 square feet down to 440 square feet. Additionally, we further enhanced the planting plan. Our previous plan mainly focused on mitigating the proposed tree removals. And in the updated plan, we're now adding 20 additional plantings, all of which are true native species, further enhancing and strengthening the existing thin understory and canopy, and creates a more robust vegetative buffer. I have some more information with me tonight, but if the commission had any questions to start, so I know Rick just gave a in-depth summary of where we stand.
So where the garage is, I think one of the concerns that we had last time is, was there any reason why the garage wasn't adjacent to the house as opposed to like kitty corner? Is that asphalt existing? I did visit the site, but is that asphalt existing now?
There is a portion that is existing, and actually do have...
because you mentioned it's only increasing by like 440 square feet.
Yes, within the upland review area.
Oh, within the
so there is some
okay.
additional impervious outside of the upland as you
I see
connect
that.
to the garage.
Okay, right, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And that's also a net because we're also removing a portion of the existing drive that is closest to the wetland.
Right,
so we're creating a larger buffer between the wetland, the wood line, the demarcation, the lawn, and then the driveway.
Okay. So the driveway, the garage is still slated to be built where it is, and there's no consideration given to relocating that. On the drainage summary report, it says the project's been designed with two systems, one for the wetland and one for the southern abutter. I understand the situation because we do have a letter on record from the southern abutter expressing some concern about the runoff, but could you just kind of, usually when we're talking about systems that are designed, they're usually because we're putting in a pool or we're increasing impervious surface. It's just sort of unusual wording. Could you just kind of explain that?
Sure. So for the drainage system, it's designed with 2 points of concern. So the existing site drains to 2 locations. The first to the wetland, to the stream corridor, and the second to the southern abutter, just from the topography. So when we designed the drainage system, the town requirements request that the runoff or volume be either maintained or reduced to all points of concern. So in this case, we need to ensure that the runoff or volume is not increasing to either the wetland corridor or to where the water is flowing to the southern abutter. In this case, we are reducing through the town standards, I believe the 50-year with this recent design, to both points of concern. So we're reducing both runoff volume and rates to both the wetland and the southern abutter.
So you're addressing the runoff from the increase in impervious surface, because from my understanding of the letter on file is that the concern is with even existing conditions. None of this will improve existing conditions. It's just that this will not increase that. No?
No, it's improving it too. There are, for various storms, there's a diminishment. So there's 2 areas that are two watersheds. They have systems in both watersheds.
Right.
The back of the property
And
ultimately drains to the south. This one draws to the east.
Right.
So.
And it drains to the level spreader.
Right, there's level spreaders at both points.
Yeah.
That's okay,
Yes.
and that will drain toward the brook, I assume, right?
The level, yes,
Okay.
that water would, today it flows toward the brook and then it'll continue to flow toward the brook, because also through the drainage manual, you're not allowed to send water to different points of concern. So as it flows now, it needs to continue in that pattern. So not only are we accounting for the additional impervious going in, but we're also decreasing even further than that with the proposed structures.
And then just a couple questions and comments about the planting plan. So you're going to be removing invasives, and I just have the same comment that I had for the last application, which is it's going to be by hand, and anything that can't easily be pulled out, like we don't want like a ton of like digging in the wetlands. If it has to be cut at grade repeatedly over a period of time, that is how it's usually recommended. So when you remove the invasives, so on either side of the water course, both on the west and the east side of the water course, it looks like there. Are you planning to put in any kind of like meadow mix there, or are you allowing just the? I think there's existing pachysandra. Are you allowing that to spread there? What's going to go in those areas where the invasives are removed?
Sure. So for the proposed invasive management and removal is for the barberry and euonymus. So where those are coming out, ideally they be cut at grade, or if they need to be removed at the root and then repeatedly cut as the sprouts come up. But where that plant comes out and that soil is slightly disturbed, ideally that's where the proposed planting, the new native, would be installed to take that place. So that way it'll eventually choke out any invasives from coming back up.
But there is, so I don't have the picture pulled up right now, but there's the plantings, but then there's a significant amount of space to the east of where the plantings are going. So that's my question.
If there's invasive removal in that area, ideally if it's cut down, we're not showing plantings now, but we would recommend that either arborist or landscape professional would selectively, if there's any of those plantings that we're proposing, shift them in the field to go in that area to take over, so that way the invasives don't have an opportunity to come back. Obviously keeping the nature of the planting plan, which is the buffer.
Yeah, we do want that buffer.
Of course, and we'll keep that, especially with the ferns and the sweet pepper bush,
right.
To take in that area, but where the other invasives are coming out, that would just repeatedly getting cut down for over the 2 to 3 year period.
Okay, and I think it was noted that the boulder demarcation had been noted, but it's not part of the plan.
That is correct, and we brought some visuals. On site, there is an existing low stone feature that already creates a clear boundary between lawn and the wooded area. And that is all along the northern side of the driveway. And then on the southern side, there is an existing rather strong pachysandra. So that's a rather clear demarcation between the lawn and the wetland as well. And I have a photograph if it is beneficial to see. I have a couple copies of.
We have on the.
Yeah,
we've done that.
Okay, this is a new presentation.
Oh, that's a new one, okay.
These photos may have already been included in the photos submitted with the original proposal, or with the original application rather. So with this last photograph here, just showing that there is an existing low demarcation. So that's why we are not proposing another one, or a second rather. And the homeowners in our compliance also, we had spoken to them in regard to the stream cleanup. I recall that we discussed at the last meeting, and they were actually very willing and eager, I would say, to clean up. And they're right now working to connect with a landscape professional familiar with the sensitivities of wetlands to assist them through that process to clean up the fallen branches and obstructions.
Yeah, I think there was a note on the planting plan under native planting notes, number 2, it said any removal of debris to be approved by EPC staff prior to removal. I think we want them to do that on an ongoing basis.
Of course.
We don't usually, Rick doesn't usually have to go, if there's like a fallen branch in the brook, we want that out. It usually doesn't have to be approved. And they will be doing that a couple of times a year, I think it said, like 2 times a year and after major storm events.
We would recommend, seasonal, especially if it's fall, the spring or fall, especially over the winter as branches fall through from the storms. I recommend seasonal maintenance on the stream, and I think that caveat of just keeping, obviously we always recommend keeping EPC and the staff in the loop if there is any activity occurring in or near wetlands. And we say debris, especially because in this case we're removing branches, but obviously there's no altering the stream or flow. That's not what this is related to. This is just the general maintenance and cleanup.
Okay, that's all I have.
Good. Peter?
No questions.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you very much for excellent presentation. I thought these things are really helpful. So it helps me visualize it. I know the area well. So I think this is excellent. Just out of curiosity, are you going to have water in the garage? Is it going to be? Are you going to put plumbing?
I'd have to check that. Not that I am aware of.
No, not that I care, but I was just
still
curious too, because I don't care, it could be a man cave for all I care, but it may be. So, but just curious as to.
I think it's still in that early
Concept,
stages.
right? Yeah. My bet, if I had $20, I'd put it in a man cave. It ain't a garage. It ain't a garage.
Any friends?
So, but, hey, God bless. So, Rick,
Yep.
you want to write that one up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And thank you very much, Rachel, for good presentation.
Thank
Good
you.
adaptation for listening to us
Excellent.
and coming up.
Thank you for your comments. I'm glad we were able to hopefully address everything that you had hoped to.
Thank you.
Do you want another copy for the
Yeah.
file?
So, moving on, EPC 24-2025, PL 25-165, 81 New Warden Road, Jay Hudson and Ian Hudson, to construct a pool fence in and approximate to wetlands and water courses. The property lies along the east side of Leeuwarden Road, approximately 800 feet north of Cary Lane, and is identified as map number 8, lot number 8. The zone is R1, and it is approximately 1.27 acres. Rick?
Mr. Chairman, in the memo I provided, I highlighted some of the concepts that have been provided in the application and some of the historical data. A couple of years ago, the EPC was engaged with a prior applicant for the demolition of the existing house that was there and the reconstruction of, the construction of a new single-family dwelling,
Yes.
pool, and a pool house, drainage. There's some number of implications.
How long ago was that application?
It was.
Do you remember?
23.
Yeah, 2023.
I think we all, but, yeah.
Yep, and again, it was under a prior applicant. The structure was, and the drainage was successfully completed and CO'd. Following the sale of the property, they initiated the construction of the pool, which was properly constructed and CO'd. Right now, they are engaged with a contractor, and they are building the pool house at this time. The original application provided for all those structures and features with a safety cover as opposed to a pool fence. This owner and this applicant requests the commission's consideration for a pool fence, an above grade pool fence. And as a result of last month's discussion following acceptance, there was one true item that the commission asked for, is a consideration of alternatives to essentially eliminate any wetland encroachments, diminish mean encroachment with the pool fence. And as a result, the applicant has provided 3 different layout, 3 different scenarios for the commission's consideration. Also, I will note that as part of the pool design, the fence design, is that it's a combination of solid, semi-solid planking in certain areas for screening purposes, and the remainder is deer fence-like structure. And they have made provisions in the form of notes that with the areas that are in regulated, or in the wetlands or in regulated areas, that they would not excavate for the pool posts. However, they would pound them into the ground in those specific areas. But the applicant is here this evening, and she's available to answer questions. But in this memo is briefly highlighting the fairly narrow focus of what this application entails. The big picture items were addressed under the wetland permit, the prior wetlands permit. The wetland here ranges from, in some of the space, is light woods in the rear of the property. It's more heavily wooded and more native in its makeup, and a number of large trees. So they are avoiding, in these scenarios, deep penetration into the highly wooded space, but this is closer to where the pool is and where the prior authorization allowed encroachment with drainage, etc., but also a planted buffer. That planted buffer was implemented. I witnessed it. We have certifications. They made some substitutions based on availability, but the plantings were installed in general conformance with what the commission previously endorsed. So with that, the applicant's here.
So, in your opinion, the prior application, they've completed everything that they promised to do?
And the only thing that they have not is that house was fine, inspected, certified, and drainage in good shape. The landscaping associated with the house along the perimeter of what was essentially lawn, very much like what was done on the Holly application, that was installed, certified. Drainage installed, certified. Transfer of property, the pool that was endorsed, the in-ground pool, installed, certified. That, again, they're under construction with the pool house, we'll call it, or, pool pergola. So that's currently under construction, and it's, we'll be doing the same thing, ensuring that it's compliant with the original permit plans.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Very official. Hi, I'm Jasmine Hodgson, owner of 81 Leeward. Thank you so much, Rick. I have surveys and notes. This is my first time ever attending a commission meeting like this. I wasn't quite sure what I was walking into. We lived for 11 years on Linda Lane. Did not have wetlands, but we were in the middle of the cul-de-sac, so kind of lived on a fishbowl. We were so excited to find this property and feel like we had so much wood and privacy in another great neighborhood. So now the pool is in, beautiful, and we've continued working with our same contractor, Sean Shea, to do the pool house and making sure that everything was in line with the plans. We've continued to work with the same landscape architect, the Growing Concern, to kind of just continue and make sure that we keep adding and plan to add much more buffer over time as budgets allow. But we are looking for this fence because we have the safety cover. To me, it's never going to be enough. There's just times where you have it open, and then there are so many kids in our neighborhood. We have children as well. I just it makes me uncomfortable, and I feel that we need more. So initially, when you think of the last thing I want, I have older children who know how to swim. I'm not worried about them in particular. My dog, we have a golden retriever, he loves to swim, so that's fine. It's really the other kids when I'm not watching that I'm most worried about. So I don't really want a fence directly around the pool because we can enjoy it at all times. It's really just for those kids that maybe I'm not welcoming that are just deciding to join us. So we designed the fencing. We have wonderful neighbors. It's technically perimeter, I guess, on two sides because we're matching existing fences that are already there. So both the Kennedys on one side and the Abbotts on the other have existing deer fencing. So rather than create a gap, which I think actually is bad for animals, and we could have animals get trapped in there and not know where to go, that could be a lot of long-term headaches for me to try to deal with. Obviously, I'm not landscaping in there. So we're trying to match those two. And then on the back side, we're just going back a little bit beyond our existing, the approved, where the buffer is and the boulder hedge. We're just going back enough so that we don't stare at it, but the Kennedys also don't. So that there's tons of space behind the fence. It's still part of our property. So we're not saying we want to wall off our 1 1/4 acres. We're trying to be considerate of all of our neighbors, letting everybody have the enjoyment and keeping that the course where our robust deer population hangs out is still going to be very open for them. And it's heavily wooded. We're not taking down any trees. We're not pruning anything. It's all staying as is. We just want to give ourselves a little bit more protection for the neighborhood children and for ourselves to have that comfort. So that's,
Okay.
but I have not put together a beautiful planting plan. I'm sure Chris is going to have it eventually. I didn't know at this stage I needed to have that, or if I do need to have that, so. But the buffer was pretty well done by Chris for Sean initially, so hopefully that satisfied the requirement. And then I can kind of do my plantings in a year or so when I can get to that part of this process. But I think initially, when we talked, you wanted to see an alternative and a planting plan. So there is an area that Chris said, which I sent in the additional attachment that I recently sent, where we wouldn't have to disrupt any existing like boulders, or there was some tree stumps, that we wouldn't have to mix everything. He's like, we could easily put 3 green giants right here, or whatever you would prefer. He's like, we could just put them here, and I wouldn't have to, we could hand dig it. He's like, this is an easy spot. So that's what I just put here. I was like, we can definitely get this done without disrupting anything. And then the fence can go right behind them. And Neil Marino, he would have loved to be here. I didn't call him. He would have come if he's doing our fence. So he's fully aware and on board the project and happy to come if we need him at a different commission meeting to talk about it.
Okay. Carolyn, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, you have a beautiful property. I visited it the other day, and it's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. You state in your narrative that the primary objective is safety, and I agree with you. I would not trust a pool cover. I absolutely would want a fence around any pool if I had a pool. But I guess I just wonder, why aren't you putting it around the pool? Like, why? That's sort of the elephant in the room is if safety is your primary concern, why not put it around the pool?
So for aesthetic reasons, for our family, and when I have guests over, I am not worried about the pool. It's really when we were in the pool, we run out, we go down to a soccer game, or we go somewhere else, and I don't close that cover.
It's the neighborhood
This
kid.
can happen all the time. You know, it's just kind of, I think anyone that has a pool cover knows that. You leave it open because you want to enjoy it. It looks beautiful. And when my family is there, or when we have guests, I'm not worried about
But would
that.
the pool fence not accomplish that, address that concern?
Directly around it with
Yeah.
a good lounge gate, it would take away from our enjoyment of the pool and our property. I don't know if you've come recently, but you'll see kind of where the back patio leads, and then you have the pool and the pool house and the trampoline, and it's just all this kind of beautiful, fun kid zone. And I want to keep that open for everybody for when we're there. And when I want to have those people in our pool and around the area. I don't want to stare at one of those pool houses. That's just, I don't know how to answer questions.
No, I have the same question, because our general practice is to try to avoid fencing within the wetland area.
Yeah.
And I agree also with both of you, I would not rely just on a cover.
Yeah.
But to me, that then leads to a pool fence, not a perimeter fence. So that's the major issue that I'm wrestling with on this one.
I don't have any other questions. I mean, look, I have 2 young kids. I would not want an open community pool and to take that risk.
You wouldn't.
I understand the other committee members' concerns about, maybe confining the fence to just pool area, but I totally understand your concern. You're basically splitting up your yard with a fence.
Yeah.
Neighborhood kids, so I don't have any further questions.
The other thing that we had considered, and I didn't put it in the consideration pile, is I said, what if we followed the existing lawn line where the boulders are? And we talked about that, and then we would plant in front of it so we wouldn't stare at the fence. And you can see the edge of our lawn is identified in the survey, because I think that was a pretty big issue when we initially developed the property, or when the developer did. So they looked at the lawn line, and then they had the buffer zone all around it. So I said, okay, if we put the fence in front of there and just lose some of our yard, not the end of the world, still achieves my goal. It honestly really isn't. I mean, I'll just lose, maybe 15 feet off all the edges against the wetlands, and then against the Abbott side of that property. Kelly and I were chatting about that. If I stayed in front, so I still would be in the upland review area, but I wouldn't be crossing the wetlands course. I'm making an alley for all the deer to go right to her front yard and her driveway. That makes me feel like not very neighborly, and I don't know if it really achieves that big of a difference from our perspective in terms of my impact. Does that make sense?
Right. I'll win her. I have a soft spot for safety issues, and as a personal opinion, I never agree with I believe in belt and suspenders. Okay, and so never agreed with the state law that said you can just have a pool cover. That's it. That said, fences in wetlands creates an issue because fences tend to catch debris when water flows, and I understand it's an intermittent water course. Catches debris, whether it be leaves, sticks, twigs, and it accumulates. So, what can I say? I'm concerned. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about what I euphemistically call, he's not here so I can malign him. Bill Wright is not here. Sorry, Bill. But we call it the Bill Wright critters. Okay, the ones that can crawl underneath, that the fence, it's not a cement wall.
Yeah.
It permits small critters from going back and forth and doing whatever they do. And so I'm concerned about that particularly the wetlands. Upland review area, I'm also concerned, but the wetlands is the wetlands.
Can you, since I technically don't, this is a preference, right? I don't technically have to have it be a pool fence. Could it on the back side that's in the primary upland review and then the wetlands, could that be higher? I mean, I just don't foresee in these wetlands areas, it's heavily wooded. I don't see kids trying to crawl under the fence. Like, I feel comfortable with there being a gap there, if that would help.
No, we're not talking about letting, deer crawl underneath.
Yeah,
okay?
no, if it's like 12,
trust me,
12 inches.
I have no sympathy for deer, okay? for a lot of reasons. And so, if you called it a deer fence, I probably would approve it automatically. No, but I'm talking 6 inches.
Yeah.
Okay, something like squirrels and everything else can crawl under there without even noticing.
I mean,
okay,
I think that would be totally fine.
Something like that. Anyway, okay, those would be my comments. I don't know.
Yeah, remember, for fence purposes, it has to go right there.
I know it can have openings
Yeah.
to, I think she's covered because she has the pool cover for insurance purposes.
Mhm.
Okay, what she wants is, keep kids out, okay? And that's, so from a technically insurance perspective, you're right, okay? But she's already covered, but she's not gonna get any benefit on her insurance by having a pool fence per se. She's looking for a functional fence to keep kids out.
Mhm.
But I think, right, Rick, so.
Does that happen frequently, that, I mean,
Pool jumping? Yeah, you didn't do that as a kid?
You didn't? Yeah. Oh, my
I can
goodness.
tell you. Pool, daddy. and
Yeah.
then-
Oh, you can't read
So,
On a nice hot night?
No, but I like.
Were you a teenager?
Yeah. Yeah.
a couple hundred years
There you go.
ago.
Oh, my
In
goodness.
ancient times.
I know. Peter's very quiet on that one. Me and Trevor committed.
I grew up in the city, so there were no pools around.
You were hunting for them.
I don't know. Rick, why don't you write up a draft for, the only additive I would do is when you do come up with a planting plan and the growth concern comes up with it, that you come just show it to Rick,
Sure.
and Rick make that a condition of approval that.
Where would be the fence, though? I just need to be clear where the fence goes. Is it going to go through wetlands or not wetlands?
Well, it's going adjacent to wetlands more than through wetlands.
So near the rocks, right,
Yeah.
near the perimeter?
Is it going to follow the,
Planted buffer and not go through the wetlands?
It's going to be behind what you said,
So
was.
the original plan has it behind the buffer. The request had it so that I don't pollute my lawn, right? The original request had it saying, like, I just want it beyond so that it doesn't impact my neighbors at all, like, just with their visibility, but it also, I don't immediately see it. It's kind of hidden, especially when all the leaves are out. It doesn't impact any trees. The edge of the lawn and where that boulder line was kind of saying, like, I guess we technically could put it there, but then I lose an extra 15 feet all the way
Yeah, see, I'm
around.
against that. I would say behind your first, but that's me, and I'm one of four. So,
So you say what, Aaron? Where would you?
the original plan,
The original plan, and just make the gap on the bottom.
make the gap on the
Yeah.
bottom.
I like that.
So, that would be mine, but I'm one of four, so one of four that here.
So how does the gap in the bottom help in terms of children?
So,
Yeah.
Well,
I've been saying
it's
a
just
foot.
going to be a
Okay.
couple
or whatever you want to call it, not let a squirrel or a rabbit or whatever.
and it's
may
a
be.
wooded area, so
Yeah.
that's not the area.
So you're not concerned with them coming that way, you're more concerned with them coming from?
And they won't even
front
see that there's a gap. It's all brush and boulders and, there's a lot going on. I don't think they'll see that there's a
No
small gap.
2-year-old's gonna crawl under that.
No.
Would be my
No.
experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have experience.
so are we pursuing the original submission of the plan or one of the alternatives? I just want to be clear.
I would think the original submission.
Yeah. I'll be in approval on this, on the original.
I will not be an approval on that.
I'll approve the original.
So we're not voting, but he has to write it up for approval.
And then is there modifications to the fence?
Well, no, we described the conditions of the fence, that there must be a gap underneath for,
But
In the
post-
wetland area.
and the posts have to be, yes.
Pounded.
The posts have to be pounded in. I don't think that's an issue with the applicant, so.
And that part is a deer fence.
Yeah. Yeah, that area is all different.
It's a-
The cedar wood is just in the front, visible from the road area.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And there was some planting too.
Yeah, the planting
Yes.
plan. I said the planting plan is going to.
Natives,
Yep, we got it.
not natives.
This was actually a harder decision than you realize.
Yes.
It really was.
I've been in touch with Rick a bunch, and so I kind of had that feeling. And there is a lot at play, and I feel like you have to be really considerate. We love the fact that we actually have woods on this house. The last house, we were literally in a fishbowl. We had all the neighbors in our yard all the time, which was great, but I was ready for some privacy, so it's really beautiful.
No, it's difficult because fences and wetlands, okay, create a whole lot of issues, and You know, and it, you know, it really creates a problem for me, but
Yeah.
because of the safety issues and I guess it's an intermittent waterway, so I'm a little more lenient, but
Thank you.
but if, Rick, I think you have points that you need?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
guys. Thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Thanks for all this work. This is a lot.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, EPC 26/2025 PL 25-176, 64 Andrews Drive, A. Teodoro, to construct sanitary sewer force main in and approximately the wetlands and water courses. The sanitary line is associated with a new project to construct an in-ground pool house, and other related features. Property lies along the east side of Andrews Drive, just north of Red Coat Pass, and is identified as map number 64, lot number 113, zone is R1, and is approximately 1.75 acres.
Mr. Chairman, for those of you that have been to the property, it is a pretty unique site. You have, it's basically a house on a mountain. It's a very steep drive, developed single-family dwelling with a septic system that's tucked behind the house. The property is, as a description, has steep slopes, lots of rock outcropping, surface boulders and stones. The wetland itself is kind of a linear area that abuts the road, that kind of runs, you know, from the applicant's driveway to Red Coat Pass, where I kind of believe it's kind of inconsistent, the topography within it. I kind of believe that it flows in that direction towards Red Coat Road and making it into the drainage system that's there. For those of you that have been on the commission, as long as I've been here, we've had two applications on this property. I think they both ended up being agent approvals for work that, although that was sited up on the top of the hill, it was situated within our upland review area, 50 feet to the wetlands, including the fence. There was an expanded or replacement of a deck. In one application, the other one was for some propane tanks. And again, I think those were done as agent approvals. The applicant in this application is seeking to install an in-ground pool, a pool house pergola kind of structure associated, and drainage and some patio space tucked up behind, around that rear plane of the building, top of the hill. But in order to move forward with this, they have to get rid of their septic system. So there is sanitary sewer in Andrews Drive, but it's currently being served by septic, subsurface sewage disposal. So the applicant intends to, in order to make the space, the project envelope, the pool and the pool house, abandon the existing septic system, construct the pool, sanitary, and all the features up on top. In order to do that, though, they have to run a sanitary low-pressure
It's all down
line going right down along the shoulder of the driveway. When they built the main and the street, they left one of the engaging valves in there for this service property, and it's in the wetland, I believe, or very close to the wetland. So they know where that is, and they have to connect to it. So the applicant has provided plans in order to demonstrate that this project can move forward with a minimal impact on the wetlands and water courses. They also have to look at drainage. They also have to look at resource impacts. They also look at water quality. And I've tried to summarize that in this memo. The major project components are more than 100 feet away from the wetland, even though the setback is only 50 feet, but they're tucked again behind the house. This project, because it's so tight up on top, necessitates not only the abandonment of the septic system and to create and to draw that sanitary low-pressure main, they're also going to build a temporary or create a temporary construction access from Red Coat Road. So there won't be a lot of movement in the wetlands. The only thing that's going to be affecting the wetlands is the actual placement of this sanitary connection. They have made a commitment to export all the excess materials from the site. So we're looking at things such as resource impacts, water quality impacts, drainage impacts, and measures to ensure that if working in the wetlands, that this space is adequately restored. So with the submission of this site development plan, I just want to get into the record, the overall development temporarily permanently affects about 250 square feet of wetland and about 1,600 square feet of the upland review area. The space primarily up above is developed lawn space and manicured surface. Down below is kind of scrub growth to light woods in the wetland itself. Although the applicant claims that no trees will be lost as a result of, no trees of size will be lost as a result of the project. A report has been submitted in terms of the drainage report. They intend to mitigate the impacts of the development by installing a very simplistic infiltration system to collect the stormwater and manage it. 5 units, a 24-inch gallery. Although there's going to be an increase of about 2,000 square feet of imperviousness as a result of doing the drainage system with their collection structures and piping, that for all storms ranging from 2 to 50 years, both the peak rate and volume of runoff is going to be held the same or diminished. What you haven't seen is Joe Canis has reviewed this in detail over some period of weeks and has recently, it was yesterday, has confirmed that the design is appropriate and that he agrees with the study methodology and the impact analysis. In terms of water quality protection, sediment erosion control plan, all the bells and whistles with silt fences, both single and double row, tracking pads, inlet protection, stockpile areas, stabilizing ground covers. They're using infiltration to filter and cool stormwater. Everything has deep sumps and outlet controls to, again, assist in the collection. And there's been a operations and maintenance plan. The septic will be abandoned in accordance with the public health code. One thing that we are, although there's been some preliminary details about how do you work in the wetland with minimizing the impact, and I've discussed it with the applicant, we're going to be adding a phasing element to the plan in advance of any building permit, where from those sanitary sewer projects, sewer wetlands, you end up negotiating around the trees of value. You pull off the organic soils and stockpile them. The mineral soils you pull out, you put your pipe in there. They backfill. The engineer makes a determination if water stops are necessary so you don't drain the wetland. And then you put it back the way you took it out. Mineral soils, organic soils, and back to grade. To mitigate the impact, they've offered some fence tree protection up in the development zones, but there's also have a planting plan that is basically more herbaceous stuff that's going to be planted back that was prepared by Alexander Mock for the ferns and so forth. She's also added standard notations for implementation, deer repellents, etc. That's a summary of the application. So far, Abed's here this evening to answer your questions and to make his own presentation, I suppose.
Go to him.
Thank you, Rick. My name is Evan Bauer. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I work with Cusidis Engineering out of Fairfield, and I'm here on behalf of the owners of 64 Andrews Drive. So, like Rick said, this blue line that I have shown, this light blue line here, that's the 50-foot upland review area from the wetlands that are associated with. It's basically, they probably paved the road over a wetland, and whatever was left over is kind of in between the property line and the wetland itself. There's already a very clear demarcation of what these wetlands are, because this comes up to a extremely, like a 1-to-1 slope of kind of stabilized rock that kind of runs along the entire driveway. Like Rick said, the best way to put it is it's a house on a cliff for the most part. The septic is currently, it's installed in 1985. There's a couple rows of leaching fields and a septic tank in the back right through here. And to be honest with you, the only lawn or really usable area of the property as far as like flat, it being flat. So the owners would like to propose a in-ground pool house, and with that, a subsurface detention system that meets the 2, 10, 25, and 50-year storm events for rate and volume. That was approved by Joe Kanish, as Rick said just the other day. With the abandonment of the septic system, this green dash line that I have, this is where the septic approximately exits the building. So rather than replumb the entire house to the front, the easiest way to actually do this with the least disturbance to everything would be to come around the side here in kind of the upper portion of the property. I don't know if anybody visited the site, but you'll see there's like a very narrow walking path. And this was one of the comments that Joe Kanish had, was that there's not a lot of access from this side, aside from the basically putting in that sewer line and that's it. Which is why all of our access for the additional activity is going to come off of Redcoat Pass down over here. It eliminates any chance for any adverse impact to the wetlands on this side, and it gives honestly better site access, although there's not a great amount of site access to begin with. This portion right here, I believe, is about 40 feet or so. That's the portion of the sanitary sewer ladder that would have to go through the wetland. The existing lateral exists right through here that ties into the main in Andrews Drive. So you have, like Rick said, you have a planting plan from Alex Mock that kind of just coming through here kind of repairs the area. We'll make sure, as Rick mentioned, that there's not going to be any kind of draining of the wetlands, though it doesn't really hold a lot of water. I don't know if you saw while you were out there. And a lot of those plantings, I don't want to put anything there. We kind of agreed with Alex that we don't want to put anything there that's going to be, you know, heavy root mass, because that's going to start putting pressure on the sewer lines. So that's why we're doing herbaceous stuff, mostly ferns that are native to the wetlands in this area. I think that's pretty much all I have for my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I thank you for your time.
Would you like to start?
Not a lot of questions. Thank you
Sure.
for your presentation. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I mean, it goes without saying that there must not be a sewer hookup on Redcoat Pass, correct?
I don't believe so. If
Because
there
it would
is,
be so much easier.
yeah, I know. I hear you. Unfortunately, we're kind of beholden to whatever
Right.
the existing
I
lateral was
figured.
when they built the sewer systems.
Right, I figured. And also, you're going to have to dig through some of the asphalt on the way down, correct? Just to kind of, to keep the pipe straight and so forth?
So what's nice is that this is a low pressure force main, so we don't actually have, we can kind of bend it around as we need to.
Okay.
So the whole system in the street is not a gravity sewer main, it's low pressure.
Okay.
So they use, I forget what it's called, but it's basically a flexible pipe, which, you know, we've kind of designed. I know there's a lot of bends and buckles.
So will you be having to excavate through the asphalt driveway or
No,
not?
we
You do
won't.
not?
There's a probably 4-foot strip next to the driveway on the side that
Okay.
we're going to go right through the shoulder there.
Okay, that answers one of my questions. On the operations and maintenance plan, it says, it should, the recommended frequency of service should be shall instead of should, and there's a little bit of confusion as to who's responsible because it says owner/association. Is there a reason for the word association?
To be honest, yeah, the reason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's sometimes there's a property management company that is responsible for managing the property. Typically, yeah, you know, we could just change it to be the owner, but just in case there's, you know, a condo complex or something like that.
I was wondering
keep it
about
there.
that.
No, what happens, I believe at Tokenique is, the Tokenique Association, I
Yeah.
believe they own, I could be wrong.
They got like
but-
one company to come in and.
Yes,
yes.
Okay.
I don't know if this is in Tokenique. It's on Delafield Island. It's right off of Delafield Island Road.
No, I know Andrews, I live.
Not far from-
Well,
okay,
I live I believe, is it Delafield Island? I believe it, yeah, I believe it is Delafield Island.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they have their own association.
And that's
Sorry,
and that's
it's
why
not
the
really-
language is owner/association, because it's one of those things where if you ask somebody, they're like, yeah, to be honest with you, I have no idea. So,
Okay,
but
okay.
if it makes you comfortable, I can change it to either or.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's all I had.
Peter?
No questions. I mean, I not vote for this. I mean, I think for me, I would have to approve it, so it all hinges on exactly what Rick said, is to get the construction techniques correct.
Yeah, that's a note we
to
can
do
add.
with very, very much care to the wetlands.
Yeah, I mean, the connection to the sewer is value add over the septic.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, all things considered, yeah, because, I don't know where we'd be able to replace it except in kind if we didn't have that connection available. So it's a very limited site.
Rick, just out of curiosity, can you talk to your, I guess it'd be Ed Gentile, right? To see if there's a sewer connection in Redcoat?
Okay.
Just,
Absolutely.
And that's,
It would be so much easier.
if that's a yes or a no,
Yeah.
and if it is, we'll see you again for a rubber stamp, because we would much prefer to go to Redcoat, and so would you probably.
We
Yeah.
absolutely would. I think the contractor who's going to be doing this is going to be a lot happier if we could go to Redcoat. I don't know if it extends up there. All I know is that the tie card that we were given and what they show that we're supposed to connect to is through here, which is,
No, well,
a lot of the times they don't like to have just phantom sewer valves or, open connections that aren't connected to unless there's a real reason, so. If there's one in Redcoat, I'd absolutely love to go down there.
let's just check, because I think there's universal agreement that we prefer connection to Redcoat rather than, and
Sure.
just less disturbance.
Absolutely.
And less,
Not going to the wetlands.
Yeah, well, the only thing is, if there isn't in Redcoat, this is one question that I did kind of have, is would it be easier to go up through Redcoat, but we'd still have to go through the wetlands? Like,
Yeah.
saying the main does not come through, if we could do a private
Yeah.
lateral through.
Mhm.
But you're still crossing the wetlands, and I believe there's a culvert that goes over a portion of the road, right through here.
Okay.
So, if we had to bring it up Redcoat,
Mhm.
it wouldn't be, it would probably be actually a lot more disturbance in the end, particularly in the wetland area. Anything else?
yeah, no, I think that's it. Rick has our question, Rick has our comments there to do, and the only pending one is Redcoat. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Yep. Moving on. Everybody got a copy of the November 3rd minutes, the special meeting? Was there any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I just had some typos that I did send to Rick. I had to
Thank
take
you.
over for Jim.
Thank you for channeling Jim.
And I really am, because it's like where there's a missing letter or a misspelling, that kind of thing.
Well, no, and trust me, Ed, thank you very much for doing that, okay? So, we miss you, Jim Millard, for getting our English
Extra
lessons.
work for me, Jim.
Anyways, if there's no questions or comments, can I have a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve EPC minutes from the regular meeting of November 3rd.
Special meeting.
Special meeting, November 3rd, 2025.
Trevor, were you there?
Yes,
Could you second?
I second.
Oh, right.
I wasn't there.
Oh, you weren't there.
Yeah, you were good. All in favor?
One abstain.
And one, three yea and one abstention. Great, without further ado then, I can have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn EPC regular meeting from December 3rd.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Boom. Good night, Channel 79.